In November, we told you this was an order from a federal judge out of Washington County. It then moved to the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The Associated Press reports that the court ruled the U.S. Constitution guarantees people accused of crimes the right to a lawyer. The state is also still dealing with public defender shortages. Now, as of Friday, the Oregon Judicial Department shows more than 3,200 defendants do not have a public defender. And right now, you're taking a look at some of the crimes for those who don't have a defendant. This includes felony class A, B, and C misdemeanors and contempt. The Oregon Circuit Court website shows that 1,400 people who are previously unrepresented but do not appear in court are now in warrant status. These individuals will not be prioritized for an attorney until they appear in court.
So what you've got is you've got a whole bunch of criminals, innocent until proven guilty. You've got a whole bunch of criminals that because the state of Oregon can't get its act together and it has basically just made a sham of the legal system. Hey, let's just let everybody go. We're the Schmidt show. That was Multnomah County. And recently, Mike Schmidt, who was a district attorney, backed by George Soros, he lost his election to a more moderate, tough on crime opponent. Tough on crime. That's the direction we're going. But for so long, Oregon has been going down this roadway of, hey, let's be soft on crime because, anything else at this point in time is just racist. So they don't have enough public defenders. And when the state says that they're 500 shy, that means, they're probably like 750,000, maybe 800 public defenders are shy. And, public defenders. So you come out of law school, you become a public defender to get your feet wet, get going. Maybe you want to look at a political office. Maybe you want to come, whatever it is. It's a stepping stone, right? Nobody is running to become a public defendant in Oregon, specifically in Portland. So in the meantime, their constitutional rights are being violated of all of these alleged criminals. So we're just going to let them go. And then whenever they get an attorney, we'll kind of reel them back into court. We'll just see how it goes. It is not the hardcore, murder somebody type crimes, but there's some really rough crimes that are within those felony classifications. And just knowing, what a misdemeanor can be these days, you're basically allowing folks right back out onto the street to commit, wacky, crazy crime again, because so many of these people are absolutely, out of their mind. They're on drugs. We're not doing anything to really get them the treatment they need. They're just roaming around society. And now they can't get a public defendant. And so public defender. And so they're just, they're out in the wild. They're wilding. So that's what you can expect from Oregon. And there's really, in the near future, this article, the article we're going to read here is stating, well, we're trying to move the whole classification of criminal system around. That should work out better. And we're trying to put some more money to it, but it's like hiring police officers in Seattle and in Portland or San Francisco or New York City, where you defunded the police and you crapped on policing as a profession. You're not able to hire those police officers at a rate that exceeds the number of police officers who are leaving to just quit. Hell, I don't want to be a cop, especially here anymore, or retire. I put in my 28 years. I'm out of here. Don't blame them. Or moving to an area where they get paid more, cost of living is less, and they have a more stable work environment. I mean, if you had the option to go somewhere where you're appreciated versus being absolutely crapped on like they were here in Seattle and in Portland and elsewhere, that whole defund the police thing, that was a hot idea for a split second until people actually sat down and went, oh yeah, maybe this isn't the greatest idea ever. And maybe public safety is going to be at risk here. And it has been, and it continues, and it remains to be. And this is one of those things that's coming out of that, is you got a legal system in Portland and in Oregon in general that doesn't have enough folks to run it. Federal appeals court on Friday upheld a ruling that Oregon defendants must be released from jail after 7 days. They don't have a defense attorney. In its decision, the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals called Oregon's public defense system a Sixth Amendment nightmare. Now, these are people that are protecting the, alleged criminals because they're innocent until proven guilty. You've got so much criminal activity going on right now they've just got them, it's so clear the criminal action is happening, but you don't have enough of a legal system to actually push back and put some of these people in jail because you don't have enough public defenders. I mean, come on, what are you even doing? But this is what they want. I think this is what they want because, actually putting people in jail seems to be, it's a consensus that it's racist. You actually incarcerate somebody for a crime, that's racist. We can't have that. So this is all kind of part and parcel of this whole system that is just broken down. Not only the Sixth Amendment nightmare, but how about for all the citizens in Portland and in Oregon in general that are having criminal action take place in their community, and these criminals are being arrested, wait 7 days, no public defendant, put them right back out on the street, right? Put them right back out on the street. I'm sure that'll work out fine. But keep the murderers in. Yeah, murderers and, really bad guys and girls, keep them in. Yeah. But what qualifies as a really bad crime now is shocking, isn't it? Because we're not really holding criminals accountable for their actions at all. So the opinion said Oregon is responsible for upholding legal protections for criminal defendants. Oregon has struggled for years to address its public defender crisis. I've talked about it a bunch. As of Friday, more than 3,200 defendants did not have a public defender. A dashboard from the Oregon Judicial Department showed of those, about 146 people were in custody, but fewer people were expected to be impacted by Friday's ruling because they're already out roaming the countryside looking for their next victim. Yeah. An Office of Public Defense Service draft report from March found that Oregon needs 500 additional attorneys to meet its obligations. Hey, you want to be an public defender in Oregon? Not really. Yeah, that's the general consensus, right? Nobody wants to be part of a wildly broken system with leadership that doesn't really lead. And that's what you had in Mike Schmidt and you've got in the system. You just don't have enough public defenders. And you don't have the ability to incentivize to bring them in either. You can't just double their salary. There's, budget, a little thing called budget. And nobody's budget right now is overflowing. Nobody's budget is, hey, yeah, we could up their salary by XYZ. That's not happening. So, a state like Oregon that's really, really behind, it's going to be behind for a while. You're going to be playing catch up for a long time. If you ever get caught up. Meanwhile, these criminals are just right back out on the streets doing their thing, right? Slinging their drugs, doing whatever, taking their drugs, bashing out windows, just all that criminal activity that we see that we're being told. Robbing. I mean, the amount of robbery that's taken place is just insane. Businesses being robbed because, you've got this whole drug thing going on and people are whacked out of their minds and they're just running around. And, for the most part, you have just stated, hey, crime does pay. Go ahead. There's no repercussions for your actions. Just go out there and steal, rob, whatever, do whatever you want. And you know what? Because we're not really going to prosecute you. We're not really going to incarcerate you. We want to get rid of those jails. I mean, how many prisons is California closing down right now? And they're so proud of themselves. Oh, look at what we did. We're so proud. And you're like, yeah, but those are all criminals that are used to be in jail that are now out on the streets, roaming the communities. How's that going to work out? Never mind. It's all right. We don't like prisons anyway. And that's what's happened. Yeah. You've shut down prisons. You've shut down mental institutions. You got a whole bunch of drugs in the system now that just make people absolutely wacky nutty. And what could possibly go wrong? No shenanigans to be seen here, right? It's wild. So next year, Oregon Public Defense Commission will move from the judiciary to the executive branch. All right, so now we're just going to move it around. We're going to move it around a little bit. And state lawmakers hope the move will provide more support to the agency. Yeah, maybe, but are you going to get any more attorneys up in there? Oh, no. We're just making a lateral move with the organization. All right. Okay. Yeah. The Ninth Circuit's decision upheld a preliminary injunction issued by U.S. District Court Judge Michael McShane last year. Case came from Washington County, where 10 people charged with crimes and held at the county jail while not having court-appointed attorneys filed a class action habeas corpus petition through the state's federal public defender's office. These people do have a legal right. Everybody has a legal right to an attorney, right? That's just how the game is played. So if you can't figure out how to get enough public attorneys into your system, then that's on you. That's on you. And I blame the residents of Oregon for voting in the politicians that have been soft on crime. How's that working out for you now? Oh, it's good. It's all fine. We mostly don't have crime going through the roof. Mostly. All right. Okay. Those aren't the stories that I'm reading, right? I think people have just stopped recording a lot of the criminal activity going on out there. Because what's the point? You don't have enough public defenders. These guys are just going to be roaming around forever. And when you do have enough public defenders, even then, you're not really prosecuting those who should be prosecuted. And there isn't the pushback. There isn't the, hey, you can't do that because you're going to end up in jail for 10 years. That no longer exists. We've either taken criminal actions and made them misdemeanors, all the big heavy felony ones that we used to have, or we're just no longer prosecuting. Nope, can't do that. Nope, don't want that. That's racist. So don't incarcerate him. Oregon's federal public defender Fidel Casino Duclos said Friday's decision breathes life into the Sixth Amendment right to counsel, which has been an empty promise for too many presumptively innocent Oregonians charged with crimes. How about the communities which this is happening in, where you've got just a bunch of nut job criminals running around because they don't have public defender isn't available to them. So how does that positively help these communities? It doesn't. It helps the criminals, whether they're guilty or not, right? We hope that the state authorities heed the Ninth Circuit instruction that no one remains in jail without counsel and implements the decision without delay. I'm sure that'll happen because in Oregon, just like Washington State, we're always covering the backside of these criminals. Always. It's never going the other way. When asked by OPB whether the state would appeal, spokesperson for the Oregon Department of Justice said that they're reviewing the decision. Aren't they always? So this is just kind of one more layer within the system you've got going on in Oregon where things just aren't quite right. Don't have enough public defendants, don't have enough cops, don't have enough prosecuting attorneys. The ones that are there, district attorneys, they're just, it's okay. Less is more. You know what I mean? They're just not prosecuting the criminals. They're not throwing people in jail. Soft on crime approach. Much more humane. Yeah, except for the victims in the community. But those victims, they voted the politicians in that came up with all this policy that created a system where you're shy 500 public defendants. You don't see that in Republican-run communities, do you? Why is that? Why do you don't have, show me a good news story of a Republican-run community where they're shy 500 public defendants. Yeah, show that to me. Doesn't happen. It's because you've got leadership in Oregon that is so blue and it's so liberal that, we care more about the criminals than we really do our own citizens. And that's okay because the citizens have voted these folks into place. Then you've got this soft on crime approach. And, they're just going to have to live with that until they don't. And I think, most of the jurisdictions where you're seeing these stories come out of, they're already pretty knee deep into some of these issues, right? Like when you're this far behind on having representation available to people. When you're that far behind, it's going to take a long time to turn that boat around. Seattle has been struggling on the struggle bus with recruiting police officers. It's not because they haven't offered to go from like the 15th highest salary to the highest salary, just boom, offering incredible bonuses for people to sign on. It's not because they haven't done that. It's not that they're not recruiting everywhere. Just nobody wants to be a cop in a city that has defunded the police. The politicians don't support them, and where the citizens have crapped on them. So it's this whole package. And it's a whole package in Oregon as well. This is not just one little bite-sized piece. Hey, how come that happened? It's the whole thing, right? It's the whole deal. It's the whole full meal deal. And so until you start to get some politicians voted into office by the constituents that go maybe, I don't know, just a little bit more moderate, just a scooch more moderate, expect to see much of the same. 500 public defendants lacking? All right, okay. I can see how that would happen. Nobody wants to be a public defendant here. They've been underpaid and overworked for so many years, and everybody knows it. Hey, what's it like being a public defendant in Portland? It's great. It's great. It's awesome. All right. Whatever it is, whatever you believe the reason is that Oregon doesn't have enough public defenders, it goes part and parcel with all of this other stuff. And it's an attitude. It's a social, guidelines. It's how everybody views the judicial system. It's how people react to it. And criminals know this. They are gaming the system in large, large numbers. They know where to go. They know they've got access to great drugs that are super cheap. If you're illegal, you're not going to get deported if you're in a sanctuary city. They know, hey, odds of me getting busted, even if I get busted for a low-level felony or misdemeanor, I'm not going to do any time. They're not going to hold me in jail. This is great. I can just go out and just keep doing this. Rinse, repeat, because their day of reckoning does not come. How many stories do we hear about where something horrific happens? Somebody gets, assaulted or killed or whatever. And it's somebody that's got 45 felony convictions and they're out just running around, just doing their criminal activity because there's nothing to stop them. Nothing to stop them. So here we've got this deal here. All right. Yeah. So you committed a crime. Okay. Just get out there, Junior, and go do it again. Because we can't have you just cooling your jets in jail. No, we can't have that because we don't, not enough public defenders. So, got a system that's woefully inadequate. Since when do you have that many public defenders that are just not there, physically not there? Oh, I've been struggling for years. You think that might be part of the problem? Think all these things kind of work together? Yeah, they do. They do. I have hope that Oregon will work its way out, but it's particularly in Portland, you've got so many big societal issues happening that you're like, okay, that's not going to really change. That's not changing. That's not changing. Yeah. Well, anyway, I get podcasts for years, right? I will literally have podcasts for years because it's going to take that long for so many of these areas to make that turn if they ever do. So keep voting blue if you like the way things are going in your community now. And if they aren't, take a look around. Take a look around. See who's running your show. See who's running your town. Maybe you might want to reconsider. Maybe you might want to think about that. I don't know. It's just an idea. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next segment. Bye for now.